everyone feeling? It's Mars night and Saturn hour, the 16th, actually technically the 17th if you're going by the calendar, 17th of December, and it's been a minute. There's been a lot of shifts and transitions and really low energy, to be quite honest, and of course it aligns with the astrology. Neptune in the sign of Pisces at the last degree is totally doing a number on us and allowing us to come to terms with what has come to pass, and that can include relationships, jobs, lives. You know, there's a lot of elderly family members that have passed away and are making the transition to eternal bliss. I had my aunt's funeral or memorial in Virginia a few months ago, and then my uncle also passed away the day before Thanksgiving, and he was actually going to be 79 on Christmas Eve. But yeah, the priest who spoke at his funeral made a beautiful analogy of this ultimate passage of our soul's journey to immortality and just eternal bliss. So I know it's easier said than done to celebrate the passing of our loved ones because we feel the loss of their presence. Their physical self is no longer with us, but it's something to really revere and really hold with a lightheartedness, knowing that they're no longer in pain, that they are with us everywhere, no matter where we are, guiding and protecting us, and knowing that we will meet again. So yeah, it can be an emotionally draining time right now. It is the holidays, and having these holidays without our loved ones can be pretty heavy. Yeah, at the same time, there's this exhaustion. It's like a magical exhaustion, knowing that there's all this potential that is coming through, especially with the new year right around the corner, the closing of this wood snake year, which is also connected to number 9 as the year of completions, shedding our skin, and that's definitely taking place. I mean, we can feel the losses and the transitions of, when you name it, it can play out in so many different ways. It can be easy to get caught up in the loss and the mourning and the grieving and the gloom and the doom, but it is a potent time, especially with Jupiter in a trine to Neptune. A wide trine to Neptune in Pisces and in a trine to Saturn in Pisces. And so the new moon in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Cancer means that they are in a mutual reception. So the ruler of Cancer is the moon, which is in Sagittarius, and the ruler of Sagittarius is in Cancer, which is Jupiter. And so when they're in mutual reception, it's kind of like they've traded notes on one another's homes, and they're aware of how one conducts themselves in the other's house. And so they're on the same page, you can say. They're in agreement. Some people say that this is almost like the energy of a conjunction. And so with the moon in Sagittarius, along with Mercury and Venus and Juno. Again, Juno is the asteroid of relationships and partnerships, and it's really the practical side of Venus. Venus is relationships and more to do with love and attraction. The Juno energy is more about the responsibilities and the roles and expectations of each person in that relationship. And so with the stellium of planets, which is more than 3 planets in one sign, the Sun, Juno, Venus, and the Moon, and Mercury, all in Sagittarius, this is like strong energy to stay optimistic. If you know a Sag, it's hard to have a serious conversation with them because they like to make a joke about everything. They are very buoyant, expansive. So yeah, we love Sag energy, and it's all about adventure and seeking how we can expand, how we can broaden our horizons. And especially with Mercury, the sign of Sagittarius, this is a lot to do with our belief systems. Our belief systems are in need of an overhaul, because these belief systems have been proving themselves to be outdated. Because we have new information, we're learning a lot more about how life has been operating behind this veil, and now that the veil is lifting, we can make new decisions based on this new information. And so this is an energy of being very adaptable and being willing to be open to other perspectives, especially with Mercury at a square to the nodes. So Mercury will be at 10 degrees Sagittarius, and the nodes are at 11 degrees Pisces and Virgo. This is a T-square. This is a choice point, a karmic choice point, because it involves the north and south node. And the north node has to do with our destiny point, the direction that we are moving toward, what we are attracting. And the south node is our past life, or energies that we are learning to let go of. So that can be like the shadow sides of that sign, so the shadow sides of Virgo. And Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, as well as Gemini. But with Mercury being the ruler of the south node, when it squares the nodes, we are being confronted with those shadow sides of what we need to, the shadow sides of the south node, Virgo, and learning to identify what no longer serves us and moving toward the Pisces north node. So trusting our intuition, and information can come in intuitively when we are quiet or listening to music or in a creative flow, meditation, even cooking, doing the dishes, when you're like hiking, going on a quiet walk. So you're not on your phone, you're not, having a conversation or listening to a podcast, maybe listening to music, but the intuition and the intuitive hits that you can get when you're in nature or when you're in a creative flow, that would be the north node in Pisces. And that's what we want to pay more attention to during this new moon, when Mercury is square the nodes. And also there's so many converging events happening. The new moon in Sag is on the 19th of December, Friday, Venus Day, at 5:41, 5:42, I think it's officially at, according to astrologers, it's at 5:43 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because it is at 28 degrees and 24 minutes. And this is also when Three-Eye Atlas comes closest to the Earth. And so I'm curious if we'll be able to actually see Three-Eye Atlas during this time. I mean, it will be a new moon. 5:43 p.m. is right after sunset if you're on the West Coast. So it will be interesting to keep an eye on the skies and see what is available to us. There's a lot of excitement and adventure around this event, and that's what Sagittarius energy is all about. It's optimism and excitement, enthusiasm, and that feeling of being able to do all the things and having that blind faith that everything will work out. And that's the kind of energy that this new moon is inviting us to have. But it is in a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And what this square seems to tell me is that, yes, be optimistic, plan your adventures, shoot for the stars, but also have some spiritual maturity about it. We want to do this and fulfill this passion in a spiritually mature manner. Maybe taking more of a quiet approach to these adventures and having that non-violent, kind of like moderating the optimism. I mean, we just had our Mars-Neptune square, which Mars can represent action and will and drive. And so when it was at 29 degrees Sagittarius, it was squaring Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces can be a very exhausting energy. So when it's squaring Mars, that will to take action can be dampened, which is an invitation to rest. And so don't feel guilty about having to get a few extra hours of sleep. And there's also the energy of Mars representing military action, and Neptune being like illusions and delusion. So I believe it's the astrology podcast, and it was Chris Brennan and Austin Kopic that were discussing the December astrology, and they were describing how the Mars square Neptune energy can play out in like false flag type of events, where an event can be unfolding with the intention of deception to have a reason to start a war or conflict. Austin Kopic gave the example of, hey, look over there, and then the guy gets sucker punched or something. So a lot of that seems to be happening recently around the world. So, I mean, it's really hard to say what is what. And that's another thing with this energy too, is the discernment with Saturn and Pisces. We have to really be protective of our energy so that our intuition is not compromised, and we're able to really discern for ourselves what is real and what is not, and what to give our energy to, and what to protect ourselves from. I mean, there's a lot of deceiving AI videos, and you have to really pay close attention to determine for yourself if you resonate with what is being projected on the screen. But yeah, this new moon in Sagittarius I consider to be codes less traveled. So this is all about our belief systems changing, and we're allowed to change our beliefs even if it's not in line with the past or with tradition. That's another thing with the square to Saturn in Pisces, is Saturn is tradition, and the square to Saturn is the other third thing where we can create our own belief systems and align with what resonates with us. And it is an out of bounds moon. Actually, it's at 28 degrees in 24 minutes, and it's also at 28 degrees south 13 minutes declination. So if it's more than
23 degrees 27 minutes
or 26 degrees declination, then it's considered out of bounds, which is similar to the energy of a dog off leash. And considering all the things that we're finding out about how the world has been operating, and even the systems that we have been conditioned to trust, that we have been groomed to trust, has been proving themselves to be unreliable, untrustworthy, and quite sinister, to be frank, as an understatement. And so with this new information that's being revealed, all these secrets that are being exposed, we don't have any other choice but to change our belief systems. Like, we cannot be doing the same things as we did 15, 20, 40 years ago with all of the information that has been surfacing, all of the truths that have been revealed. And we'll be receiving even more truths and more downloads with all these different events happening. So the new moon at 28 degrees Sagittarius is conjunct the galactic center, and the galactic center is a black hole. I believe it's considered to be like the heartbeat of our solar system, and that's where this vortex of energy and information and ancient wisdom and knowledge comes through. And so anybody who has planets or points at or around like 25, 28, 29 Sagittarius, whether it's your midheaven, your ascendant, sun, moon, any personal planets, or even outer planets. Neptune is like a tuning fork, and Uranus, if you have Uranus in Sagittarius around those degrees, I consider Uranus to be like a satellite. So those are energies of receiving messages, and so you are in tune with these universal beings that come through this black hole, the galactic center. And now is the time that we are actually aligning with our galactic family, and it's really important to be connecting with people. If you have a hunch or some sort of nudge, or even a dream, it could come in a dream where you get the instinct to reach out to someone, then follow those nudges, because right now, with a lot of energies around that galactic center point, we can be receiving these messages that are intended to shuffle us into our galactic families. Like, we're all stars, we're made of stars, we're made of stardust, and we are part of a bigger system. We're part of like a constellation family. And so when we trust our intuition and follow those nudges from the universe, then we can be led to our galactic family, our soul family. And that way we can be truly supported and celebrated and loved and guided. Like, we have a certain level of how one another should be treated, and maybe we weren't born into those types of families, but it doesn't mean that those families don't exist. We just have to listen to those intuitive nudges. And so the galactic center is a potent point where all of these energies are converging, the new moon, as well as asteroid Juno. And Venus is at 24 degrees, so right in there. The galactic center is at 26 degrees, which is where Juno is. And then Mercury will reach that galactic center point like within a week. And this is also where 3i Atlas is making its presence known, delivering these messages. And I feel like this is going to be a time where during this new moon is when we will have this divine intervention, and our DNA will have this upgrade. And like any of our electronic devices, when we upgrade our systems, it needs to power down for a while. And so we want to kind of use that same care with our bodies. You know, we are not machines. Like, even machines need to rest. So, I mean, humans are even that much more delicate and fragile because we have emotions. That's something that we have to tend to during this time, during this weekend, during this week. I mean, especially with Neptune at the last degree of the last sign. Venus is going to square Neptune, which can actually be a very creative energy. It will test our relationships, values, finances, which isn't as energetically draining. Mercury, though, can, when it comes into a square with Saturn and then Neptune, that can be mentally draining because Mercury is about the mind and communication, as well as commerce. So you definitely want to take the time before making any major purchasing decisions, because Mercury square Neptune is similar to a Mercury retrograde where there can be some deception playing out. So I believe that's going to be right around, let me just see, it's going to be right after Christmas. So I mean, keep your receipts if you can. Try not to buy anything until after Mercury, until Mercury leaves Sagittarius, which will be around the 1st of January. But I mean, I still wouldn't give it a few days so that Mercury is further away from the square to Neptune. But yeah, I feel like with the square, the new moon squaring Saturn and Neptune, there's a lot of discernment that we're asked to exercise with the new enthusiastic, optimistic energies of the Sagittarius New Moon. And the tarot cards that I pulled also speak to this kind of energy. And so the King of Wands is like a fearless, generous, intuitive leadership energy with compassion. And so the wand is all about our intentions, our will. And this is a very willful new moon as well, with Mars in Capricorn. We have a lot of ambition that we are pursuing, a legacy to uphold and pursue. But the square to Saturn, which is the ruler of Mars in Capricorn, is asking us to take our time and use a lot of discernment, spiritual maturity, and not rush into these decisions, and just making sure that we have a sustainable alignment with the ambitions that we are envisioning for ourselves. And then the Page of Pentacles is also that same sort of energy of enjoying the process. It's a process of self-improvement. Maybe we're learning new skills, learning how to take care of ourselves, learning how to choose ourselves, and appreciating what we have, the achievements that have brought us to where we are today. And then the bottom of the card, or bottom of the deck, was Judgment, which is so Sagittarius. But it is an embracing of your calling and a radical awakening. You can see all these people rising from their graves as a resurrection. This is an announcement of being able to trust your intuition, trust your knowing, and going forward with leading your community. So yeah, there's the need to also stay flexible. We're going to have Mercury retrogrades throughout next year in all mutable signs, and so there's going to be a lot of wobbling over the next year because we'll be moving into these leadership roles that we haven't been in before. And so we really want to enjoy the process and expect that we will make mistakes, and those mistakes are how we learn. And there's, I'm sure it's easier said than done, but realize that, these are new conditions that we are all getting used to. And passing judgment or being judgmental is what we are letting go of. we're letting go of those shadow sides of Virgo. And Virgo can be, you know, perfectionist and has the tendency of being judgmental. And yeah, this is all in preparation for the major outer planetary shifts that are happening these last couple months between now and, I would say, April and May. This is that window where the outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, are finishing up those last degrees of the previous signs that they were in. So Uranus was in Gemini, it's retrograde back into Taurus, and it is currently at 27 degrees Taurus, which there's so many conversations that Uranus and Taurus is having with Algol, as well as Neptune in Pisces, which is where the fixar Shiat is, Scheat. So that is the asteroid of like endings, like final, it's like the liberation of the soul. I believe, I forget who described Shiat as liberation of the soul, and other descriptions will look at Shiat as destruction, like water damage, floods, and of course this is the end of the zodiac. This is when mortality hits, when people pass away, but at the same time, you know, this is the final and ultimate passage, transition of the soul to eternal bliss. And so yeah, Uranus is having a conversation with Neptune. Neptune moves into Aries January 26, 2026. And then Saturn moves into Aries. Saturn moves into Aries February 13th, 2026. And they will stay in Aries. And so they will stay in these new Yang signs for us to take action and move forward and experiment and be warriors in our new adventures. When these outer planets move into their new sign, their new elements, then this is when we can really feel the collective belief systems taking a new shape, like breaking down of the old systems. Of course, they're already in process, and it'll be a while before we can really sit with them. But yeah, by the time 2027 hits, that will be an energy that we will, I would say, be able to look back at this time and shake our head and be like, we survived 2025. So yeah, it's just really important to stay centered, stay grounded, stay hydrated, accept, receive the present conditions, and a little mantra that you could even remind yourself of, like write down on a post-it. I accept the present conditions. I accept my contributing role in the present moment and allow the changes taking place to change me. So this is definitely a co-creative energy that we are moving into. More collaborations. We're being shuffled into our galactic families, our galactic energies, so that we can learn from one another, teach one another, and quantum create. Yeah, I consider this like a period of quantum creation, quantum co-collaboration that we have not experienced before, where we are actually coming with authenticity and passion and excitement and spiritual service, so that we can shed these conditionings, these the false programming that we've been conditioned to. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that made sense. And yeah, hit me up if you are looking to learn how to read your birth chart and see where these energies are taking you. And thanks for sticking around. Hope to see you on the next one. Till next time.